Great. We're rolling. How are you?
Great. I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing very well.
Good. So yes, we've already kind of briefly run through the kind of broad topics that I'd like to ask you about. Of course, it will be good to kind of get you to kind of introduce mythology in your own words. So maybe just kind of describe the agency as it is right now, and I'll kind of then ask you about maybe kind of the lessons and experience of rebranding it, or evolving Partners in Spade into Mythology. Or
Sure.
Great.
Sure, that's great.
Yeah, so go ahead if you want to just kind of give us the kind of lowdown on mythology.
Sure. So Mythology is, we think of ourselves as a brand studio first, and we work really closely with founders and leaders of brands to help them really just find their voice, and that can take a bunch of different forms. That can look like marketing and advertising. That could look like brand development work. That could look like retail work. But it's really about authentically kind of telling the brand story.
And I guess Mythology is a new but not so new agency, a kind of evolution of Partners in Spade. So maybe you can talk about that story, and particularly, what you wanted to, how you wanted to evolve, kind of what the agency was into what the agency is today, and maybe what differences there are, or what kind of core elements maybe you decided to kind of keep and build on.
Sure. Kind of the long shadow of Partners in Spade, I think, was cast in the very earliest days of the studio. Partners in Spade, I think, was really a catch-all in a certain way for all sorts of creative endeavors. I don't think that it was really built around the idea of being in the service industry, and it certainly wasn't built around the idea of being a full-service agency. It was a catch-all. It was a gallery. It was a book publisher. Made some movies. So it was kind of mold-breaking in a certain way, in that it was just this studio that was built for creative pursuits. And I think that's that was like the foundational beginnings of Partners in Spade. Partners in Spade had been around for about 12 years, started by two creatives. And I've been managing director and helped kind of run the studio for, I guess, coming up on a little over 8 years. And we started to shift away from, let's just call it creative pursuits, to focusing a little bit more on working with brands, really on the service side. But we took a lot of those really early learnings and built them into the service that we provide to our partners.
So in a way, do you feel it was kind of, you took the moment to kind of codify some of those things that you were doing into a kind of a new set of services that you'd kind of communicate to kind of current or future clients?
Yeah, I would say that transition has been happening for a while. In July of last year, we officially became Mythology, but I think in a lot of ways we'd been Mythology for a handful of years. We parted with one of the founding partners of Partners in Spade, Andy Spade, and Anthony Sperduti, who is my partner and founder, majority owner of Mythology, is ECD of Mythology, and really ECD of Partners in Spade since the earliest days, since really day one. And we together have built this business and our approach to service over the course of the past, as I said, something like 8 years. And we really made that transition, in the past, call it 5 years. So when we became Mythology officially, it's really been run by the exact same executive team, the exact same leadership team, all the same staff. We're in the same office. We're responsible for kind of the work that we're most known for. So that transition, in a certain way, while it was hard and fast, because we became Mythology in July of 2019, we'd really been functioning in that way for a bunch of years.
Did you, as a company, as a design firm that's in the practice of helping people establish or rebrand brands, did you learn any lessons from your own experience taking Partners in Spade and moving it into Mythology?
Yeah, I think that we really, to borrow your language, I think we codified and we formalized our approach, but more than our approach, really our offering. I think, in the earliest days of starting any pursuit, I think it's about its potential. It's about what you believe it could be. It's about what you want to achieve. And I think as you start to mature, you have a little bit more perspective because you can look in the rearview mirror and you can string together a narrative. And for us, that narrative is very clear, and I think that we've built a practice, we've built a team to do exactly that kind of work, and I think that we're really, I would say, disciplined about the kinds of projects that we take on, and I think I'm incredibly transparent about what we're best at, and we take on only the things that we can be really good at.
What are you best at?
I think that we're best at employing kind of a curiosity to really look at brands, look at culture, look at our founders, look at what the ambition of the brand really and truly is, and go incredibly deep and reflect that back for the brand in communication. And that can be at the highest level, the platform for the brand that everything else is going to ladder up to. That biggest idea for a brand that is so sharp that it is something that they can use as a guiding principle, not just for marketing, but for decision making around, staff and business decisions. And I think that's what I would describe as the sharpest point of the spear. And I think that regardless of whether we're working on advertising, whether we're developing a brand from scratch, or we're working with a venerated brand, a brand that's been around for a really long time, that's not being led by an existing founder, but rather, a CEO that's kind of come in to provide stewardship for the brand. We need to understand what that biggest idea is, whether we define it and articulate it and invent it, in partnership with the brand, or it's something that is really clear from the brand that is being provided to us. We need to understand that first. That's the kind of first most important thing. And that's true for us regardless of, if we're doing working on the brand, or doing advertising and marketing, or if we're even doing retail store design. And then it's about how we creatively demonstrate that and how we can artfully reinforce that big idea through storytelling.
And it's kind of, you use it as a tool to kind of filter your decision making around whatever that would be, like a physical store space or a digital space or branding.
Always. Yes.
Yeah. I guess to kind of jump straight into it, obviously we're kind of in the midst of a very kind of tumultuous, disruptive, also very interesting year for everyone, every industry. And I'm wondering, kind of your take on that, kind of what's been happening with your brands, what kind of conversations you've been having with them. Of course, you work with a lot of very kind of massive kind of established corporate brands like